preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy.
They gather in a bullet-riddled hangar in Afghanistan.
And I will dwell in the house of the Lord.
America's Generation X Army farewells the fallen with a video clip and the soundtrack from the movie Gladiator. Two young soldiers, the latest casualties in a war the US administration has declared all but over.
Make us all aware of the brevity of life and the need to live it with a noble purpose. Keep us this hour of our need and enable us to find sufficient strength. Amen.
Sharing that noble purpose is Afghanistan's president, Hamid Karzai. A man with one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Every morning, as he strides to work across his palace compound, he's surrounded by a flying wedge of American bodyguards, watched over by American snipers. But even here, in the relative safety of the presidential palace, he knows each step could be his last. In the post-Taliban Afghanistan, politics remains a deadly business. In the past 12 months, a vice president and a cabinet minister have both been murdered. And President Karzai himself narrowly escaped assassination.
It's not my nature to see risk. I'm an optimist, maybe too much of an optimist, but I am that kind of a person, and I just do things and work and have a permanent hope that things will go all right. So far, they've gone all right for me, and in the work I did for Afghanistan has produced a result for this country, and I will go on regardless of the threats. I'm not aware of them.
The most immediate threat comes from a reinvigorated Taliban.
Let's go! Let's go!
The Taliban were behind the Kandahar assassination attempt, and these captured Taliban fighters are part of a new guerrilla campaign against American troops. They're distancing themselves from Al-Qaeda and are now teaming up with renegade Afghan warlords, launching attacks from sanctuaries across the border in neighbouring Pakistan.
I imagine that there is a measure of frustration on the soldiers who are out there who see the rockets fly toward them. They believe that the people who shot them are then going back across the border where in many instances they're beyond their reach. And they would really like, I think, to be able to pick up the telephone and call the Pakistani forces and say, they just crossed at this point, go get them, and have something happen.
They were oppressive, they stopped education.
If they can destabilise or kill Karzai, the very symbol of the new Afghanistan, the Taliban know the country could again slide into anarchy.
These are very, very inhuman, brutal terrorists that are coming from across the border. So we will definitely have to get rid of them, stop them, eliminate them.
The Taliban also know that without security, there can be no meaningful reconstruction. Beyond the palace walls, the capital, Kabul, is rising from the rubble. The reconstruction effort, protected by a 5,000-strong international security force. But the peacekeepers' mandate stops at the city limits, and Afghans outside Kabul have seen precious little security or rebuilding. Stung by criticism that he's little more than the mayor of Kabul, besieged in his fortress, the president decrees that if he can't get to the people shall come to him.
What I like is to go to people, to the markets, to the shops and mingle around. That has become a little difficult, and that I miss.
It's essential for Hamid Karzai's political survival, lobbying tribal groups to support a draft constitution and national elections slated for next year. But such grassroots politicking is a security nightmare. Karzai is Washington's anointed nation builder.
Well, you don't come out before the president, you come out behind the president.
And the Americans don't trust any one faction with the president's life.
Stays outside.
So US State Department security experts are now urgently training up replacement Afghan bodyguards.
The first floor guy comes out before the president. He posts on the front right.
Having a private army of foreigners guarding the president damages Karzai's credibility in the eyes of many Afghans. But at least he's still alive. Karzai's own father, a Kandahari tribal leader, was murdered by the Taliban.
I think he's a very brave man. We call Afghanistan a combat zone. I think anyone in Afghanistan has a certain element of risk in his life. President Karzai probably has more elements of risk than others here.
Amid the grey suits of international diplomacy, 45-year-old Karzai cuts a colourful figure with his chic nationalist dress and informal manner. He's called a meeting of his National Security Council. A different crisis is brewing on what is a disputed border. Not Taliban this time, but Pakistani frontier troops who've marched 5 kilometres into Afghan territory, seizing the village of Ghulam Khan. Already there's been heavy fighting. When President Karzai leaves the palace, his movements are heralded by prowling Apache gunships. The heavily armed motorcade sweeps into Kabul airport. His American bodyguards are taking no chances. Today he's off to Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, for urgent talks on border security. The president is firmly focused on the job at hand, a critical meeting with Pakistan's military ruler, General Pervez Musharraf.
So can I just ask your relationship with General Musharraf, how would you describe it?
Very good relationship. I trust him, we're friends, and I'm glad that I'm going to visit him.
Excellent. Despite the red carpet reception, many Afghans ask, with friends like Pakistan, who needs enemies? Karzai briefly joined the Taliban in the early 90s, but soon left after becoming suspicious of Pakistan's involvement. The Taliban only held power through the covert support of Pakistan's military, the same generals who now greet Karzai like an old friend. After September 11, General Musharraf abandoned the Taliban regime and their troublesome al-Qaeda guests to publicly support Washington's war on terror. But according to one of the world's leading analysts of the Taliban, Musharraf is playing a double game. Detaining more than 400 al-Qaeda suspects on behalf of the Americans, while secretly helping the Taliban to undermine Karzai.
the intelligence agencies have given freedom of movement, freedom of access across the border to the Taliban. They have clearly linked them up with many of the extremist groups in Pakistan who have been fighting in Kashmir and, of course, did fight for the Taliban.
The smiles and firm handshakes of the Pakistani generals conceal a long-held desire to control their chaotic neighbour. And they view Hamid Karzai as part of the problem. A man too readily influenced by Pakistan's enemies, India, Russia and Iran.
Unfortunately, I think the strategic impulse from the Pakistan army has not changed very much to what it was before 9/11, when Pakistan was supporting the Taliban.
General Musharraf holds a winning hand. For as long as he wages war on Al-Qaeda, Washington won't intervene, even if that infuriates American commanders in Afghanistan.
The officers in the field are very, very upset because they see the Taliban coming in from Pakistan, and they see the Pakistani troops on the border literally opening up a gap for them to come in and then to go back. So the American troops on the ground, I think, have been lobbying the Pentagon very hard. But the Pentagon have not been wanting to kind of upset the relationship with Pakistan, because Pakistan has been providing, arresting Al-Qaeda elements.
Behind closed doors, General Musharraf rejects a demand from President Karzai to hand over Taliban leaders living in Pakistan. But in public, everyone is sticking to the diplomatic script. Now is not the time to address any awkward realities.
And we will take all effort, adopt all possible methods of sealing or denying movement across the borders to those who carry out terrorist acts either in Afghanistan or on our side.
Who are these people these days, sir? Who are these people conducting these acts?
You're taking chances away from other people. Any more questions?
Just a couple of hours' drive from the Afghan border in Pakistan lies a school that calls itself the Harvard of Fundamentalist Islam. The Haqqaniya Madrasa, an institution that claims 90% of the Taliban leadership as graduates.
My brother and also my another student, my another best comrade right now in the Allah Guantanamo Air Base, and also another place. We would like to struggle, to fight with American people. Okay?
The word Taliban means students, and nearly half the 2,500 who study here are Afghans, many of them veteran fighters. They've found a safe haven in Pakistan's northwest frontier province, where last October local Islamic fundamentalist parties took power in provincial elections and now encourage the Taliban to depose Karzai and his American backers.
The danger enemy of the Islamist George W. Bush. We doesn't like compromise with the American government. Our struggle will be continuous until the day of the judgment. We are every time ready to lay down his lives for the sake of Islam.
Pakistan's military has a long history of co-opting fundamentalists to fight in Afghanistan, to wage jihad or holy war, while the state officially denies involvement. And it's in no one's interests to spell it all out to a Western journalist. "3 days after the smooth reassurances of the Karzai-Musharraf meeting, We're flying to the American outposts on Afghanistan's border with Pakistan. While we are still in the air, a US patrol is ambushed. 2 Americans are killed and 4 wounded. Gunships set off to hunt down the attackers, who melt away before the US can bring its decisive air power to bear. With almost daily rocket attacks on their posts, the Americans prepare to strike back. There's still an 11,500 strong US-led force here for the sole purpose of hunting down Taliban and Al-Qaeda. According to American intelligence, the Taliban are remarkably well equipped with body armour, night vision equipment and surface-to-air missiles.
Positively ID what you're shooting at, especially those of you with the bigger weapons.
The orders from Captain Mike Gonzalez are clear.
You give them that warning shot. You fire one across the bow, one over the hood, whatever. Okay? But if it keeps coming, all right, lay waste into it. Make pink mist of the truck.
The plan calls for hundreds of troops of the 82nd Airborne to sweep border villages for weapons caches and militants.
Talk to those village elders. Let them know what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah.
Top of the hit list, deposed Taliban leader Mullah Muhammad Omar, still thought to be hiding in the region. His ability to evade capture, a growing embarrassment for the Americans.
Just ensure you know what you're shooting at.
Notably absent from this briefing are America's Afghan allies. They won't state it publicly, but US officers simply don't trust the Afghan army or pro-Karzai militias.
How do you distinguish friend from foe?
That's a good question because it's hard. A lot of times you don't know who your friend is and who your foe is. It's kind of frustrating sometimes.
Don't get complacent. That memorial service the other day is a grim and harsh reminder of how challenging and how harsh this environment is over here.
What's up?
Delta 1 6, you're loud clear. 356 Roger, 411.
They head out at dusk. But even with all their high-tech weaponry, there are still some things the world's most powerful army can't conquer.
This country's like a bad dream.
A blinding dust storm becomes the great equalizer.
Just never wake up. Right now the dust storm's pretty hectic. It makes a lot of the leadership and the gunners a little nervous because we're used to standoff up to 2,000 meters, and now that's been reduced to 25, so it'd be hard to spot an ambush or any enemy contact.
As the convoy creeps towards the target villages in darkness, there's a burst of machine gun fire from a nearby ridge.
Was it shooting at anything in particular that you could tell?
It appeared to be shooting straight across the ground, maybe a good level above that ground over there.
It turns out to be an Afghan military post, spooked by the unannounced arrival of the Americans. The element of surprise is lost. At dawn, the patrol enters the first village.
Tell him that we're going to search the village now to tell us if they have any weapons. We have a female soldier. She'll search the rooms where they have females. We won't make bad eyes at the women. We won't steal things. We won't break things. We won't bother with Islam.
This deeply conservative region of Afghanistan is not only Hamid Karzai's home, it's also the Taliban heartland. To many of these people, the Taliban are heroes, freedom fighters confronting American occupiers. Not so long ago, these men would have killed any outsider who entered family compounds and gazed upon their women.
Our woman is scaring from them.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Tell him he's with me. Tell him I'll keep him safe. Which way does he?
After 25 years of war, the arrival of soldiers usually means bad news. A few villagers are clearly traumatised by the presence of the Americans.
Nobody's in trouble. We're just curious.
For 2 days, locals are questioned and houses upended in an ultimately fruitless search for weapons and militants. In one home, New York's Twin Towers takes pride of place. The irony lost on all in the room as the search operation grinds on.
A lot of times these people will tell you a lot of things you don't expect them to if you show them a little bit of respect. Just because these people are simple doesn't mean they're stupid.
We are the big boys in town right now, and it's one, either talk to us or don't talk to us and don't get our help, because we're also here to help the people.
No matter how well-intentioned the Americans, their attempts to win hearts and minds often fail. As the medics discover when they try to convince the parents of a boy with a badly cut foot that he needs to be hospitalised.
They have to bring him to Kandahar if they want him to keep his foot.
I told him that you said what? He says that he is not ready to go with me.
Tell him again.
Does Mom know he will lose his foot if he doesn't go? Tell her. The infection is very bad. It will get worse. He may lose his foot if he does not go to the hospital.
The offer of medical help is rejected. These people have seen too many regime changes in recent years to feel confident yet of throwing in their lot with Hamid Karzai's sponsors.
No one will hurt you.
Not so surprising when you see the men the president hopes will ultimately bring security to all Afghans. Parading by the palace walls is the new National Army. Plagued by desertions, this Western-trained force so far only numbers 4,000. It's little more than a comic opera palace guard, and no replacement for the vast private armies of the warlords, totalling some 100,000 men.
Afghanistan has no options there. We either have a national army, we either build it and disarm the irregular militia groups, or Afghanistan will be chaotic, and the Afghan people don't want that.
Determined to force the issue, President Karzai calls a crucial meeting.